Welcome back to another episode of CHP Sports. I am Anthony DeRazio, and to my left on the screen is my co-host Kenny Barber. Kenny, how you doing this week?
Doing good, guys. What's up?
So we are coming off the end of the Olympics. I know this has been a topic we've been on a lot, but we both enjoy many of the sports that are in the Olympics. So I think we'll start there this week. Lots of cool stuff happened in the last week. Lots of track and field, lots of team sports stuff, lots of individual sports stuff. So, Kenny, what were your what was your top 2 or 3 things that happened the last week of the Olympics?
Yeah, so definitely the wrestling kind of finished off and some huge wins for the U.S. On the ladies and the men's side. And we totaled 9 total medals overall. It's the most since 1984, I believe, when we got 12, which was kind of, I think, one of the best teams the U.S. has ever sent there. And then considering there was only 5 weight classes, it's a really, really good total. Every guy that went medaled, so that's pretty unprecedented too. And then we had some ladies. We had the most ladies medals of all time as well. I think they only had 1 or 2 ever, and I think we ended up with 3 or 4 total ladies medals too. So, and some really exciting wins for David Taylor, last second double leg takedown for a gold medal. And then
that looked like I didn't think he was going to get it. I mean, he just drove straight through the guy to get that.
Yeah, it was crazy. You could see he kind of caught him, and to be able to sense that, he caught him on his heels real quick, like a split second, and to be able to capitalize off of that and then do that kind of blast double, which is just threw the guy backwards. He had no defense because he was leaning on his heels when he shot. So it was a perfect timing thing for him and for the clock as far as the time running out. He got the 2 and he won the match, dramatic fashion. And then Gable Steveson the next day just wins this crazy ending where he was down, I think, 3 points or something, gets a takedown, he's down 1. Mind you, the ref made a bad call and let them up. You're supposed to make them wrestle for, I think it's like 5 or so seconds on the ground before you stand them up. Stop the clock. He got another takedown and he won the match with basically no
literally,
time.
He got the takedown like as time expired.
Yeah, that was a crazy match. That guy is one of the more impressive athletes I've ever seen. He's 21 years old, and he's got the world ahead of him. He's freakishly strong and athletic for how big he is. He's doing backflips after the match. Like he's an incredible athlete, and a testament to his mental strength to be able to come back there and down late and come back and win. So some really good wins there in the wrestling. And then we mentioned Dake. He lost his opening round match, but was brought back into the tournament because the guy he lost to made it to the finals. It brings you back, gives you another chance, and he wrestled all the way through to 3rd place, as did Gilliam, who was another guy that lost early. And then Snyder was in the gold medal match and lost to the Russian man, who's one of the best in the world, and he only lost 8-5. It was a good match. So he was going for his 2nd gold, but now he has gold and silver. So a lot of good wrestling stuff. Off the top, the women's basketball team, absolute dominant fashion, winning the gold. So that was awesome to see. And my debate question is: are they up there with the dream team at this point? Are they Is this team the female version of the dream team? I think absolutely. This is the talent on that team is just insane. It's literally, it has to be like not all of the best players ever, but it's a lot of them, right?
I think they are definitely, I think it's hard to say which one's better than the other, but I'd say they're certainly on par. Like if you're talking about like greatest teams and dynasties in Olympic sports history, you could say like the dream team years, like those like first 3 Olympics basically.
Yeah.
And then, certainly the women, like they've won, what is it, like 4 or 5 straight golds? And it's not even, the gap, the thing with the men was the gap closed actually pretty quickly, right? In terms of the talent gap. The women, like there's the talent gap doesn't really seem to be closing. It's just like looking at, they played Japan in the championship game, and Japan obviously, they ran good plays, they're very good players, but, looking at them, they're not on the caliber that the American women are. You know, some of it's just the American women. They were just bigger. Like Griner was a foot taller than everyone on the Japanese team.
Who's going to match up with Griner? I don't know. I don't know who can do that. And then the younger talent, and then you still have Sue Bird, who's still there after, you know.
She's amazing. I can't believe she's still kicking butt.
Yeah, and you have Tarasi, and then the new girls from UConn, and there's just so much talent. It's crazy. And I think too, like the fact that all of our best ladies were playing, right? Whereas the men's side, we didn't have our best players there. And I think if we send our best team there on the men's side, there's still a pretty big gap, I think, but the women's gap is much bigger with the best people there. Which brings me to the men. We came back after a really awful exhibition time and losing lots of games. Got to give them credit. They came back and they won. And
they did.
You know, having Booker back and Drew Holiday and those guys. Holiday, they were saying, was just locking people down, and Durant ends up being pretty much the star again, as we know. He is just.
Yeah, Durant played like Durant, basically.
Yeah, he's just otherworldly at this point. But, you know, missing, you know, I was thinking about it the other night, like who wasn't there that in that style of ball too, where it's a little different than the NBA game. You know, imagine having a Steph Curry, a Klay Thompson, or Anthony Davis, a LeBron. Like none of these guys were there, right? So, yes, we had some really good players there. Even like a Zion, right? Throw in some young, incredible talent like that. There's a lot of guys that weren't there, which on the women's side, I feel like they had all their best people there, and it made a difference. So, but they pulled it out and they won and beat a good team, a really good team. So I'm happy for them. It was good to see. And then our women's volleyball, I think that was their first gold medal ever. Coached by
I was really surprised that was the case. I mean, I guess I don't know much about volleyball, I guess.
I was as well.
Surprised.
We have a really good, you know, college volleyball, you know, program and professional volleyball, and I was surprised to see that. Coached by Karts Karai, who is a legendary status for volleyball and won the gold himself in the team. So it was cool to see them winning. He was actually crying, very emotionally invested. I love seeing that. So cool interview after the game. So yeah, they were my highlights. You know, I really love. Obviously, I've talked about it so many times. I love wrestling, so that was fun for me to watch and see how well the ladies were doing too, and just seeing how competitive it was, and then seeing how good some of these other wrestlers from other countries are is just cool to watch. And then, you know, the other sports, obviously, I love basketball and the volleyball was just a cool little added bonus there. So, and then we had some good track stuff, which I'll leave to you because there were some huge wins there as well on the track side.
Yeah, the track stuff. I mean, the track stuff was really, I guess probably my biggest surprise was how well Italy did in the track and field. Of all things, like Italy's not known for being a track and field powerhouse. You know, certainly you don't think of, you know, Italian athletes as dominating, you know, the speed events or, you know, really anything in track and field. And yet they walk away from the games with the 100 meter, the men's 100 meter winner, the men's 4x100 meter win. They share the high jump gold medal. And they just showed up in a lot of, I think a couple other events as well, where they didn't get gold, but I think they got a couple other medals. And it was just super impressive for Italy. Obviously, you know, my father's side of the family, his mother came from Italy, and his father was first generation Italian. So I grew up in a very Italian household. You know, I just thought it was cool to see. It was cool to see, you know, a nation that, you know, typically isn't a place that you would expect to do that, to actually do it. You know, so that was cool to see. You know, the U.S. men still did really well. The 200 meters, we got second. Kenny Bednarik got second. And I believe Noah Wiles got third. So we got second and third in the 200. A very close, very fast race. The guy from DeGrasse won in a 1962, which is a very good time. It's not, you know, the world record is so far out there with Usain Bolt's 1919 that whatever. It takes a very special run to get anywhere close to that. But, you know, 1962 up until 96, like that would have been a world record. So extremely fast time. And I think Bednarik was like 19.7, which I think was his. I think he PR. I know he PR'd it. So when guys PR in the finals of the Olympics, like you can't really ask for anything else, right? It means they picked their training perfectly.
Yeah.
They put it all together. They weren't overwhelmed by the moment. So that was awesome. I guess my biggest disappointment, the men, the 4x4, we crushed out. We won by a lot. We didn't set the Olympic record. We missed it by like 0.3 of a second. We were real close to the Olympic record on that. I guess probably the biggest disappointment was our 4x1. This is historically, it never makes any sense. Like every Olympics, our 4x1 either doesn't make it to the finals, or my dog's joining us, or just doesn't, something like they dropped the baton or something. And then this year was no different. They didn't even get out of the first round. They had an atrocious second handoff. I believe it was from the second to third leg. It was just atrocious. The guy basically had to come to a standstill to do the handoff. So that was the biggest disappointment because the speed's there.
Yeah.
And it's just, and the reason is everyone knows what the reason is that, we have probably along with Jamaica and maybe Great Britain, the fastest team in terms of raw speed. But we never know who our team is until like very close to the Olympics. Whereas these other teams have guys that are, running together for like a year or 2 years, right? They're doing every meet, together. So that you're timing them when we're in a race like that where the timing's so precise. You can't just throw the race together. Like you really have to know, okay, when Kenny's at this point is when I take off, and that's where we get a perfect handoff, right? And if you're kind of guessing, and guys are running really, guys are running real fast. Some of these guys are running in the 9.8s. That makes it even harder, right? Because the speeds are so high that there's not much margin for error. So that was my biggest disappointment.
Yeah, that was always my question. Like, how much do they actually practice that?
Not much. Not much, right? For us. For a lot of the other teams, it's a lot. But if you go and look at the finals, Italy's handoffs were like perfect, and that's why they won, right? They have, Lamont, the 100-meter gold medalist on the second leg, which is typically the longest leg. So obviously he's making a big deal. But their other three guys ran really well. When they handed off to their anchor leg, the guy wasn't in the lead. He actually tracked down, I think, Great Britain to get the win. So it was a great anchor. So they got really good handoffs. They got a great anchor leg, and that if you do that, you're probably going to be in the medals, right? I mean, assuming obviously everyone at that level has world-class speed. So, if you have that and you don't have like a Jamaica or a USA that's, a dominant Jamaica or a dominant USA, which we didn't have this year. Jamaica was in the finals, but they didn't run well. And they're not the dominant Jamaica they are when they had like Usain Bolt, Asafa Powell, and Johan Blake, right? When those three guys are three of the four guys on your team, like you should win every 4x1 ever.
Yeah.
And they did.
It's like having Jordan, Kobe, and LeBron on your team.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't have a dominant Jamaica. So it was, you could argue that Italy won in a quote unquote like down year for the men's 4x1, but you still won the 4x1. Like someone still has to win. They ran a great race. They got a great anchor leg. It was a fun race. I guess to me, the other thing worth mentioning is, seeing someone become the most decorated track and field athlete for the U.S. in all of U.S. history, which would be Allison Felix. To think that, her first Olympics was, I think, 2008 is just insane, right? It's, she's become such a standing icon of USA track and field and has been, so dominant for so long, and running at such an elite level for so long that you take it for granted in some ways. And I think this year, I'm glad she got out, she managed to grit out a bronze in the 400, which was super impressive because it didn't look like entering the back straight, didn't look like she was going to get bronze. She managed to fight her way back, stay relaxed, and, grit her way down that back 100. And then the 4x4, the ladies won gold there. Obviously you have an insane team there between her. You have Sydney and the other 400 meter lady for us whose name I'm forgetting. And then, you just had an insane team for our 4x4 for the women's side. So I'm very happy she got to end with a bronze and a gold. She walks away the most decorated track and field athlete of all time, breaking the tie with Carl Lewis. So, congrats to her. What very well earned. And it was a pleasure to watch her race for 13 years over her course of her Olympic career. It's insane.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive to be able to keep that high level of performance up over, like you said, 13 years. I mean,
yeah, and I think obviously, they made a big deal about the Olympics during the broadcast, which was about her being a mom, and I appreciated that, right? Because it is hard to come back, right? A lot of things happen when you have a child to a woman's body. Like there's a lot of hormonal changes. There's a lot of physical changes. It's not an easy road back. Not discounting that. To me, it was more like there are many moms that were on the American team in different sports that won medals. So they singled her out when they could have singled out many different moms. But still, it is very impressive to come back with that level of speed. And, I know it's cool to do it in front of your kid, which she did. So, yeah, those are probably my highlights. Obviously, you mentioned some of the other things. It was cool to see. I watched the women's basketball game, the finals. That was cool. Some of the wrestling stuff I watched, or at least watched the highlights of.
Yeah.
And, all in all, I think very successful Olympics. I'm impressed, with I think Japan did a great job, so hats off to them. I don't think I heard of many COVID cases popping up, which is fairly impressive, after the game started.
Yeah.
Which is fairly impressive given, the Delta variant and how, transmissible that variant is. So overall, I think very successful.
Yeah, I would agree. It was good to not see like, oh, so-and-so is out because of COVID or so, I was expecting to see a lot more of that. not wanting to see it, but I would thought that it's going to happen. So they must have did a good job of that. And also the men's baseball team, they lost in the gold medal game. But
they got silver to Japan, right?
Yeah, it was a good game. I think it ended up 2-0 or something like that. They just couldn't score. But it was mostly minor league guys, right? A lot of double, triple A people, a couple former major leaguers, but for the most part, we sent, again, not our best we could send over there, but they're mid-season right now. But still, a good, solid effort there by the men's baseball team. But yeah, it was nice to see that everything went pretty smooth. There was no huge drop-offs in any of the athletes via COVID or anything like that. So I was happy to see that. It'll be interesting, I think, to see what happens in football season now with all that going on. So it was nice to see the Olympics not really affected by that too much. So I was happy about that. In a tough time to have the Olympics, we weren't even sure if it was going to happen. And then it did. So it was like, oh, cool. But, then you're like, oh, man, it's think if half the women's basketball team got COVID or, stuff like that you're worried about happening. So it was good to see it went off pretty well, without nothing major, I guess we'll say, happening as far as that goes. So
yeah, absolutely. So that puts us now into the basically middle of August, aka the doldrums of the sports calendar.
Yeah.
So what else do you want to talk about?
Well, I was going to say we are allowed to officially, I think, feel like talking about baseball now because it's starting to matter again. It's starting to, right? We're getting closer to playoff time. We'll get into mid-September. And it just so happens too that my Phillies won 8 games in a row. They're now in first place. They just swept the Mets.
There you go.
Yeah, the Mets were in first place, and then the Phillies swept them. So now the Phillies are in first place. And they finally got a closer, which is awesome. Because it's really all they needed. It's all I've been begging for all year, 25 blown saves. So imagine what the record could be. It's 25 blown saves.
It's so bad.
It might be more. I don't even know. That was last I looked. It
That's
was
so
like,
bad.
I mean, historically, like the worst season or half a season ever for blown saves.
That's terrible.
Yeah,
That's
so
absolutely terrible.
let that could be 25 games they could have won, right? And they're up. I think they're up two
Oh,
and a half games now in the division. Now imagine if they had just won half of the, or let's say they just won 10 of those games. They're they're up like they'd be up 10 plus games in the division and just running away with it at this point. So yeah, they got a closer. Um, Yesterday, Wheeler pitched a shutout, complete game. I think 2 hits or something. He was throwing 98 in the ninth inning. I'm like, geez, aggressive, but I'll
that's
take
a
it.
lot. It's very fast.
So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm looking at you guys are up 2 games over the Braves right now in the
Yeah,
East. Very
yeah, they
cool.
actually bumped the Mets all the way down to third, I believe. Right, it's the Braves, then the
Yeah.
Mets. Yeah,
Yep.
and but again, just imagine if we could just have won 10 of those games of the losses, we'd be up 12 games at this point due to the blown saves. It was getting comical. Like there's no way they want to win with this bullpen at this point. They're lying to you. They don't want to win games. So that's been good to see. So yeah, football. I mean, we can't ignore it anymore. It's coming.
No, it's coming.
They had
It's
their
coming.
they had their first the Hall of Fame game. Was it
Yeah,
the Steelers and the Cowboys? I believe.
I believe so. That sounds right. I didn't watch any of it. It's preseason, so
Yeah, I don't. Preseason is like a waste.
I'll watch the Browns because that's the team I grew up with and who I've continued to root for despite years of suck. We no longer suck, but decades of sucking. Watched through all that. So
Yeah, it's a tough team to like. I admire your ability to stay with
no,
them.
you really shouldn't. It's stupid.
It's like, I mean, trust me. I live in the Philly area, so I know how tough it is sometimes
Yeah,
to continue
yeah, but
rooting
no,
for teams.
yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I think are they going to 17 games this year?
Yes, which
Okay,
is
yeah. So
I don't know how I feel about that either. I have my opinions on that, but
yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out week 17. Where everyone is and
if there's
how
any
healthy teams are
if there's
going
any
into
players,
things.
if there's any players
Yeah,
left.
like
That's my biggest concern. I think if anything, I would have gone less games, not more, but more money to be made. I get it. They're protecting quarterbacks more now, so
I get it for the pros. So like with the NFL, like because the players are getting about 50% of the revenue.
yeah.
More revenue means more money for the players overall. And they a lot of expanded rosters, so more players will have jobs. I think this is all good. So
Yeah, all
I
that stuff
understand.
I like the extended like because you have to at this point between
Yeah. Oh
COVID and
yeah.
injuries, and you got to do something in that nature.
Yeah. So I mean, again, I understand why you don't want to do it, but I also understand why it happened, and I'm not horribly against it. The one that bothers me is college, and I don't like them. I think the college season right now it shouldn't be any longer than it is, right? And the problem is that these universities make so much money, and the networks make so much money off the college game, and that they still, yes, I know they have the name, image, likeness thing that finally like went into effect this year, so you can, if I'm a college athlete, I can actually like sell my face and put it on something, right? God forbid that was the case beforehand. Which is good, but you're still not getting paid,
No,
right?
and
And
how many will capitalize on that?
yeah, and you still aren't getting a voice at the table where these decisions are being made,
Correct.
right? Because it used to be that you would play through fall semester, and then you have your bowl game if you got into one. The latest would be like January 1st or 2nd, right? So second semester you didn't have football, right? Maybe you had spring ball, but like it was a lot less. You could actually take classes, right? I don't know if anyone, if you're listening to this, if you've ever looked at a college athlete's schedule, like it's almost impossible to take classes and like function as a normal human being, right? It is a full-time job, like these sports, right? Especially in
Yeah, I
season.
mean, I played baseball at college, and it was kind of like, how am I supposed to pick a class? I'm going to miss practice. Like,
Yeah,
and it wasn't a sports school, right? So they didn't care. Like they were like,
yeah.
you pick one or the other. It's not easy to do.
Yeah, and so the fact that it's now like bleeding into, second semester, and it's like, okay, well, if I'm an athlete, it's like, all right, do I play in these extra, like if my team is really good and we start, if they expand the playoffs and they, there's more playoff games, you start to have to make decisions like, okay, is it worth my health and future earning potentials if I'm a star athlete to play in these games, or is it just better to just say like, you know what, I'm out,
Yeah.
like peace out.
Pack it up
I'm
for
gonna
the
save it for
draft.
the
Hey,
NFL.
yeah,
Yeah,
get drafted. And now my
these
thing is too, like, I don't understand still why they cannot model this after what every other division in college does. And they're all done by the end of the year. And there's only a select few teams making it that far, right? So it's not every school is playing deeper and deeper into like, they're all done by, the new year. I don't
because they all want to
understand.
have 12, 11 game or 12 game regular seasons, right? Whereas
Correct.
I think those lower divisions only have like 8 game regular seasons.
Yeah, it might be 8 or 9, and then you start maybe your division championship or whatever that may be, and then it starts into their college playoff, which is fun to watch. I love watching the whatever it's called now, sub bowl division
Yeah, whatever it
D
is, like change the names. Why
D2.
it could just be like D1, D2, D3? Like,
Now it's D1 double A, whatever it's called. I like that the best because the best teams are playing at that time of the year that are the best teams in the country in that level of football, right? That's why I like it. We see it all the time in D1 college where the team starts off really hot. They lose one game and that's it. They're basically done for the year, right? They have no chance to come back.
yeah, if you're not basically not in the SEC or maybe the Big Ten, you're
Yeah,
out.
if you lose, you're out. Now, and then we'll see maybe an Alabama, an LSU, a Georgia lose in the SEC Bowl championship. They're not going to lose out on their chance to get in the playoff if they are that good, right? They're still going to probably be one of the teams in.
Yeah.
So it's just the whole thing is weird. I don't understand it. I don't understand. Keep adding more and more and more and more. Like you said, now we're into what, late January. What is it going to,
Yeah.
right? And if you're a senior who is probably going to be a first round draft pick, your decision is like keep playing, maybe tear my ACL, or make millions of dollars in the NFL. So it's like
Yeah.
it's so hard to put those kids in that position. And after having my sports finance class in college, I was blown away by how much these colleges make in football, just let alone the other sports. Schools like Alabama and we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars that they're making off of football. And the athletes, like, oh, they get a scholarship. Okay, cool. They got 150 grand scholarship, and the school made $300 million that year off football. Oh, well, they get free clothes and boarding and all that. Cool, but like you're saying, they have no say in anything. It's just
Yeah, they have no say. And when you compare it to other sports and like the sharing between the athletes and the league itself, it's not, it's like what? Okay, if you're counting, you know, the free stuff and the tuition, it's like still it's going to be probably, 0.5% of what they took in. If you what goes to the athletes and what goes to the school, it's probably like 1%, right? Whereas when you look at the major sports leagues, it's closer to 50, right? It's like 50 for NFL. I know NHL and NBA are very similar. I know the UFC is a shit show, so UFC is only like 15% goes to the athletes,
that's
but
not very good either.
no, it's terrible.
I remember
UFC is terrible.
when Trout got his big contract. So like he grew up like 15 minutes from me, right? And a lot of local people were so mad. Like he needs to come back and give money back to the community and all this stuff, which he probably does it anyway, right? The guy's a great dude. But I'm like, you know how much money the Angels make every year? What they're worth? Like that's like a
Yeah.
drop in the bucket to that. But it's a great contract. A couple $100 million, right? Cool. But they probably make $3 billion a year or whatever it is, or whatever a Major League Baseball team's worth at this point. So it's wild to see like how, like you're saying, the difference in like pro athletes and then what college athletes get. And then even at the end of the day, we're looking at Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, right? LSU, they're probably the 4 teams that are most likely going to make it anyway. So to me, it's like, it's never really that exciting. I would love to see some sort of playoff system that's better, but not one that goes into the second semester of the year.
Yeah. Well, that's coming. I think, we'll get some more. I think this week they actually start like the regular first preseason games, I believe, will probably be this coming week.
In college, college is usually like Labor Day weekend. Usually
it's like right around there is when the first week starts. I want to say it's somewhere. I'm trying to think. Yeah, probably like the weekend of the 4th, 5th might be the first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Real weekend be my guess. Like there might be like, because sometimes there's like the first weekend there's like a couple games, but it's not like there's only like a couple schools start, and then it's like really there's like the real first weekend.
It'll be like Toledo against Ohio University or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Which I watch. Ohio. Yeah, which I watch.
Absolutely. It'll be because you're like, it's like Thursday night. You're like,
what's on? Like, oh, football.
It's Ohio versus Toledo.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I'm in. And since obviously I'm in Ohio, let's see here. September 2nd, we have Ohio State has its first game, which isn't that a Thursday? That's a weird.
I think because that Saturday is the 4th.
That's a Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we play Minnesota.
Interesting.
I think because when they announced on the schedule, all Ohio State fans were pretty pissed, to be honest. Like, we're like, why are we playing? We're not the MAC. We shouldn't be playing a Thursday game.
Yeah. The Zips versus
Ohio and I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, how do you even pretend they're student athletes when you're making them play on a Thursday night, right? Like major D1 college, like
you might have school the next day.
Yeah, like okay,
you might have class. Hey, go play in this huge college football game and then go to class at 8 a.m. the next morning.
Yeah, make sure your work's done for tomorrow.
Yeah, it's like, what?
Yeah, okay. So.
Pop quiz.
Right. My goodness.
Yeah, it's wild.
There you go. Well, do you have anything else? I think we're just past 30 minutes, which I think is a good episode length for.
That was good week in sports this week, and now, like you said, we're in a little bit of a doldrums here until football gets rolling, and then we got playoff baseball, so should get good.
Should be interesting. Next week you are on vacation, so if we may record, I may or may not record a short episode on my own. We'll see, but it will be definitely back in 2 weeks for sure. Kenny, you and your family enjoy your vacation. Have a blast.
Yes, going to be fun. I'll be posting lots of pictures. I'm sure you'll love to see them all.
Yes, you can follow Kenny. His Instagram is below in the description. My Instagram is below in the description. So is Complete Human Performances. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, all that fun stuff for all the episodes. And we will see you all next week, probably 2 weeks for sure. Peace.